Hey, good Tuesday evening, everyone. This is State Representative Brad Halbrook as we kick off this week's edition of the Illinois Freedom Caucus Roundtable. And guys, it's great to have you on tonight. Let me just say this before we get started. And Chris, you can probably talk about the home of truth, logic, and common sense. But it looks like the Let's Go Brandon economy has made way for the Kamala honeymoon. And now we see that the Kamala honeymoon has given birth to Kamalanomics. Wow. Leader Chairman Chris Miller, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Representative Halbrook. It's great to be here this evening. We have a lot of exciting things to talk about. And like you did mention, this is the truth, the home of truth, logic, and common sense. And I know that I can't help but think of the famous words of Zig Ziglar, said that he starts every day by reading the Word of God and the newspaper, so he knows what both sides are up to. and we've never seen that so clearly as we look at the mainstream newspapers, Chicago Tribune, the Sun-Times, New York, and all these other, Washington Compost, and because these people, along with ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, and even sometimes our dearly beloved Fox, swerves into spin and indoctrination rather than telling the absolute truth. And we've seen this clearly because they lied about Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. They've lied about Kamala being the border czar with a wide open, disastrous border. They've lied about inflation. They lied about COVID. They lied about Hunter's laptop. They lied about the assassination attempt on their beloved President Trump. And the list goes on and on. So my question to the consuming public is, why would you believe anything that our government tells you right now at this juncture? Because they have a proven track record of not being able to tell the truth, unlike the Illinois Freedom Caucus, which is the hope of logic and common sense.
Yeah. And Dan, it was I think it was April that the mainstream media was talking about what a drag Kamala was on the Biden-Harris ticket. She was a drag. And in the last 2 weeks, they have totally remade her image. It's just a dramatic recovery in a few short months.
It is one of the most amazing turnarounds in political history, when you have someone with a 39% approval rating, and all of the Democrats were wringing their hands on how do you get rid of the first Black vice president who is next in line in succession to try to save the Biden reelection. How do you do that? Was she going to run for governor? Would they make her a Supreme Court justice? Mm-hmm. How do you get rid of her? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden last month, she becomes the savior, the best person to run this country. This is amazing, and the stories will continue to come out on the alternative press. Thank goodness that we have the alternative media because of the internet. Mm-hmm. But you'll never see any of this. You'll never see any of this on the national TV screen. One of the things that's going to be interesting, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, is that Vice President Kamala was voted 33 times in the Senate as a tiebreaker. So there are 33 votes in the Senate that she took to break a tie that I'm sure were not conservative. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to come out. So her liberal voting record in the Senate has expanded since she's been the vice president.
Right. Yeah, and State Director Colin Mosley's with us. You know, they this is the party to save democracy, and to save their democracy, they had to upend democracy to get this job done. It's just amazing how they just work their magic with these different tools that they have access to do these kind of things.
Well, it seems like they have access to tools that nobody else has access to, and so that's what's frustrating. And Brad, you always say that it's different, and that's the case here as well. So, you know, we're going to talk about Kamala's record here in a minute, and I think it certainly speaks for itself. But you know, every step of the way, every game they play just reminds us how badly we have to win in a few months.
Exactly. And with that point, guys, let's bring up our slides here. And yeah, everything is going to work. And so, like you said, Colin, we're going to talk about Kamala's record and then some of the migrant stuff that's going on in Chicago. So as we advance the slides here, gentlemen, there's a slide, Kamala and Biden. There's a list of accomplishments. I'll just throw it open and let you gentlemen have at it.
Well, you know, obviously this is satire, but you know, why do we think a Kamala Harris administration would be any different than a Biden-Harris administration? And the list here speaks for itself, but things that would never have been allowed under, I'm going to say, probably the majority of Republican administrations, let alone a Trump administration. You know, a stock market collapse, a border that was wide open, pulling out of Afghanistan, leaving billions of dollars in equipment, losing lives, you know, wars. It goes on and on and on, but the list speaks for itself, and we certainly don't need 4 more years of it.
Right.
Well, I think that's very true. And the media, the mainstream media and the newspapers are always going to try to get us talking about something other than the fact that Kamala Harris is a San Francisco communist. And make no mistake about that. But on the other hand, too, it doesn't matter whether it's Biden, Harris, Pritzker, Harris, the Easter Bunny. All Democrats are the same that they're going to put in this place as president and vice president. They're all the same. They're all cut out of the same cloth. They never deviate. They're in lockstep to destroy America. And it's important that we watch what they have done. Don't pay attention to what they say, because they've destroyed safety and security. They're indoctrinating our children at the government schools and have turned our school system into the devil's daycare rather than a place where they're going to learn reading, writing, math, critical thinking, real history, and so on and so forth. And along with that, they have taken away our energy independence, which has negatively impacted the economy in a huge way in the U.S. And when they've done those first 3 things, they destroy, most importantly, economic opportunity. And the middle class, the hardworking middle class, are the people that are bearing the brunt of Harris and Bidenomics. And so it's important to remember those things and not get distracted talking about color or this or that. To talk about these principal policies that are destroying our country.
Right. Dan, any closing thoughts on this slide before we move to the next one?
Well, I was writing down yesterday, you know, the accomplishments of Kamala Harris and her time as the vice president. And I couldn't think of a thing. I sat there for about 5 minutes and finally just threw the piece of paper away because there wasn't anything on it. But this is and you know, we heard today about her supposed pick of the Minnesota governor to be her running mate, who is another confirmed far left anti-American you know, elected official. We joked about this earlier, but you know, of all the people that the Democrats were floating around as a possible VP pick, you know, they were polling them, and our governor was amongst that group. And sure enough, you know, out of the 7 or 8 names that were being floated around, Governor Pritzker came in dead last. Yeah. And so it makes you wonder, what do the rest of the Democrats in the United States know that the Illinois Democrats don't know? It's if I were Governor Pritzker, I'd be pretty embarrassed that he didn't make the cut, and that our neighbor to the north, who's changed their state flag, which we're doing in Illinois, by the way. There is a commission looking at changing the Illinois state flag. The Minnesota governor's already accomplished that, so maybe that's how he edged Pritzker out. But if you look at the new Minnesota state flag, you'll see a resemblance to the Somalian flag, which is very telling as to where this Democrat ticket is headed.
Right, exactly. All right, gentlemen, let's move to our next slide and I'll get us to advance here. And we're just a couple of weeks away from the DNC coming to Chicago, and the cleanup of the city has began. Gentlemen, we're going to clear out the migrant camps, and I'm just going to open that up. Any thoughts that you gentlemen may have about this situation in light of the DNC, the National Convention, coming to Chicago in just a couple of weeks?
Well, we knew it was going to happen. I mean, they cannot be showcasing the city of Chicago in the shape that it's been in for the past year or better. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I guess, hopefully, if they can accomplish this, and hopefully if they can cut the crime down and stop these carjackings and shootings, maybe the people in Chicago will get to thinking, well, darn, if they can do that for the DNC for a week, 2 weeks, why can't they always do it? That'd be the only upside to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unlike Dan, we all knew that this was coming, that somehow miraculously they would clean up the streets, they would clean up the trash, they would clean up the shootings, clean up the blood off the streets. That was very predictable. We saw Gavin Newsom do the same thing when they had, celebrities visiting their town, but it's gone back same old. And as soon as the DNC is over in Chicago, we'll go back to business as usual, and Chicago will be an absolute disaster, let alone all the other bad things that are going on with the overtaxation, with their real estate bills hitting the mailboxes in real time. Right. The city's in an uproar. So it'll be interesting and entertaining to see how they deal with all this crap.
The one thing they can't hide are the vacant buildings, the storefronts. There's just, the economy of downtown Chicago was just decimated by Governor Pritzker and his lockdowns, and people haven't come back. And then you have the public safety issues and the migrant issues, and people don't want to ride public transit. They don't want to be downtown after dark. And the workforce is, working remote or hybrid, and these corporations don't need, 10 floors of a building. And there's just, the city is teetering. And then of course you have the wonderful new mayor. So it's going to be very difficult summer in Chicago for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see, I'm not very optimistic because the reports about what's coming for the DNC security wise is they're mobilizing about 500 law enforcement officers from outside of Cook County to come into the city. And so, if that's what it takes just to maintain law and order for a few extra days in the city, that should say something. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they're going to be able to do it in time. I mean, they're clearing out these tent encampments because they know how bad it looks, but they still have, thousands of people in these shelters, and they're either going to have to lock them in, and hold them in place and sort of hide them away, because we know just from the times that we spent in Chicago earlier this year, they are roaming about freely. and it's very obvious what's going on. And so they're going to have to restrict these people and hide them away, or get them out of the city in totality, before we hit a point of or before the DNC happens. The other thing I'm worried about, as far as public safety, Dan mentioned, is the reports that we've read so far is even those 500 officers coming into the city. We saw how well the communications worked out in Philadelphia, and so I hope they've got a much better plan for security and communications in the DNC, because the last reports that I've read was it's going to be an extended wait time if you call 911, and you may basically be put on a waiting list to get services out to your location. So if I was a resident of the city of Chicago, I'd be making your vacation plans for the week of the DNC. You go anywhere else that you could possibly go.
Yeah. Except Minnesota,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Gentlemen, let's move on to our next slide. And speaking about going somewhere, we're going somewhere. Maybe if I can get the slide to advance. There we go. Maybe it's going to go now. We'll be in Homer Glen next week, Tuesday night.
Right.
Is that right? Tuesday night?
Yeah.
Freedom Caucus, Town Hall. Colin, you've worked really hard setting this event up. Can you share any more exciting details with us than what we see here on the screen, or just reiterate what we see?
Well, yeah, we've just been excited to partner with the Will County Republicans. They've got a great new chairwoman, Christina, who's a fired up conservative. And so we're looking forward to being up there in Will County. Brad and I went to a GOP technology conference on Saturday, and Christina was also there, got to see her in person. And so it's all going to come together well. And so we look forward to being in Will County on the 13th.
Excellent. And to find out more about us, just go to our website, Freedom Caucus, IllinoisFreedomCaucus.org. And if you would like to contribute and be a partner with us, there's a tab to find. And then, Colin, you're writing the Substack and putting that out every week or so. Anything we need to know about what's new in the Substack this week or coming out next, let us know how that's going.
Just red meat conservative content.
We love it.
Excellent. Well, again, this is the home of truth, logic, and common sense, and we appreciate you taking time to join in with us. With that, let's just go Colin, Dan, and Chris with the closing real quick speed round comment, and then we'll close out for the evening. Colin?
Well, we got a lot of things coming up, whether it be town halls or in-person meetings. I know we're headed to the state fair a couple of days here this week, next week, GOP Day coming up. All kinds of things that, ultimately are working to educate people and influence their vote in November. And then just to throw this a little tidbit, you're going to hear more about this in the future. But unfortunately or unfortunately, we're scheduled now for 2 weeks of veto session in Springfield in November. And so I guess brace for impact, because Lord knows what they're going to give to us right after the election. But that's what's coming up. And so good to be here this evening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan.
Well, it's great. Thanks for putting this on, Brad, Colin. We're working away here, working with our constituents and out in the community doing events. Look forward to seeing everybody at the state fair. Republican Day, GOP Day is coming up. I've got a couple of fundraisers going on over there as well for the candidates, for different candidates in the Illinois GOP. But, keep your eyes peeled for the news, check your alternative media, and, pray for Donald Trump. We've got to get him elected. We need to save our country from these radicals that are trying to drive us over the brink.
Yeah, exactly. And Chairman Leader Chris Miller, close us out, and we'll be done for this evening.
Well, I got to run to a meeting, but thanks for tuning in. Please like and share our content. It's important we get the truth out to the people, because, as I said before, there's a multitude of levels of deception and outright lies that the Democrats and the mainstream media are spreading. So make sure that you like and share our content, attend our town halls, and stay tuned for another round of truth, logic, and common sense as we move forward towards the election.
Excellent, gentlemen. And with that, here we go. We'll talk to you real soon.